This is part 3. For those of you who are joining us from 1 and 2, or maybe this one just popped off for whatever reason on the algorithm. But we're talking about books that relate to real life, and we are taking a look at Revenge of the Tipping Point in the context of the recent revocation of DE&I programs within the federal government and some of the private sectors. So part 1, we discussed this idea of what essentially makes a tipping point happen for DE&I initiatives to be adopted or diversity to be adopted, especially in the case of race and population. Part 2, we talked about college admission and how this concept of that tipping point, which this sociologist has termed the magic third, was upheld for a few years until it was revoked a few years ago, literally a year ago, where they were reserving spaces for minorities in order to achieve this tipping point, to have them feel adopted. However, everything is about money, everything is about race, everything is about optics. But it was a nice initiative, right, for what it was worth. But what they found out was that they were actually not upholding or really identifying what that tipping point number was for them to uphold it in court. So it was revoked, and college admissions often do this. But what does that matter in the context of what's happening here and now today, where Donald J. Trump has banned basically affirmative action DEI programs and calling them merit-based, when at the end of the day, everything is racially coded and it's a dog whistle. But this is really concerning for many reasons because of the arguments that I have made and clarified, which is so funny that I'm reading this now within this book, that when there aren't enough representation within a minority group, within the larger group, they will never be taken seriously. And so what does that mean? I'm highly simplifying, of course, but that will put people back in that minority group years and years, because they will always be seen as a token and not necessarily just a great person who is really good at their job. Even though, yes, it does say it is a merit-based opportunity by enforcing this. However, the rule of law has always been subcoded by white majority rule. If you look at part 2, where I go look at the admissions rates for Harvard, even though the reason why they couldn't explain to them why they don't have a number at which that they felt comfortable that minorities were at a breaking point, was because they wanted to reserve those spaces for white donors and people of white descent to help uphold their financial status. So especially in the military, when we are allowing the subcoded narrative to take hold, where our military, our government, the politicians, the representatives who should be standing up for us should be driven with this context in mind, where we need a certain amount of people to help achieve a balanced totality, so that the tipping point for a certain group, let's just say the white and Caucasian group, does not overwhelm. And the vibes right now in America are not going in the direction where I have faith and strength in my conviction for that group to really represent me as an Asian American, or represent my friends who are Black, who are Indian, who are Desi. So I shared this video to, one, understand that even though it's not frou-frou for people to, and I've kind of had my suspicions as well. I didn't take affirmative action very seriously, but this doesn't have to do with entirely affirmative action, of course. But there is a reason why are percentages of entries and entrants to come and diversify the space, and to really have a cohesive group of collaboration and diversity within one group, so that one group does not overpower. And this is deeply concerning. That means that hopefully in the next 3 years that we are able to uphold somewhat of it. However, apparently it's been a swift process of getting rid of everything in the DEI, literally a day's worth of actions where they deleted everything, and and in terms of pamphlets, collateral, everything was removed apparently. And so we need to really be careful. We need to really make sure that in the next 4 years, we are looking out for our localized groups and making sure that at least our representatives are reflective of what we want to achieve, as hard as that is. This is not a very clean ending to the reality that we are living in. However, that is something to think about as to why we need to be better educated on why things are the way it is and why the society is structured the way it is. So I hope that was helpful, but let's see how the next year goes or the next 3 years goes. But I'm really concerned that this DEI thing, it seems unnecessary to some, perhaps, and maybe that might be me because I work in crypto and everyone's kind of on the right. But DEI is absolutely critical. And I think the one thing that we made a mistake on, and I say we as a liberal, a moderate liberal, is that we oversold DE&I, I think. And so how do we get back to a place where there's enough bodies in the room that are representative of the people that it makes up and the country that it represents and their constituents live in, and bring that back into the fold? So that's it. Good night.